So it has been a while. We haven't done anything. I finally start working again, and I cleaned up the messed up yesterday, and this thing is working again. So this is the third demo I do to my work, and this is going to be targeted to Artem, our new artist. But it's alright if you watch it. I'm going to go through all the work I have done, but in summary, not in thoroughly. I'll try to go slowly, so things go smoother. So, what did I do in a year and a half in this foolish time? I done two projects, and they are the game engine itself, and unfortunately the game engine itself doesn't work as standalone. It must be connected to the game. So kinda we have three projects technically. So here, do you see this one, the little green thing in here? This is the game lover engine, and this is the test game. So we have a game prototype or game just for testing purpose, and the engine itself. And when you run both of them, the game must work on the game engine infrastructure. You will see the game. But we will take a look at that later. And the game designer. It's called Map Simulator in here because it used to be only for designing maps. So this is the page to design maps, and you can make a new map in here. But before you make a map, you need to make something else, which is called the game file. The game file have all the info that the engine needs to construct the game. So here I put some data on everything I want to do in the map simulator project, or the map designer. We have a game file, which, as I said, hold all the data for the game. It have a map designer, which is this guy in here. It's almost done. We have a dialogue system, which organize the data for different languages dialogues for everything, including the GUI description, the main menu, the dialogue in the story. We have the script system, which only the bare bone infrastructure is there, but no implementation. I have some old implementation, and I can show you in the old engine demo, but these are just placeholder. They are not considered the real part of the system. The campaign system is a complicated system that make campaigns for generic games, including all kinds of quests and even inventory stuff related. So this is a system that give the feeling for the game. There's a story, there's a campaign, there's an event, something hit, and the player, when he reached to that level, then he can take the key and do that thing, and then when he do that, some other things happens. So this guy is a connector to all these systems. It hold the quest, it hold the inventory, it hold the event, it hold the script, it hold the dialogues. It connects everything together to make a story game or a campaign. And the balance system. Balance system is kind of optional, but I really need it for RPG games, strategy games. I might not need the first two for the first game, because even Walker, I can connect the stuff inside the game project manually. But it would be better to have a system that support you to build them in the future. So actually I don't need these three to make the first game. All what I need is these three, and that's why you see the focus mostly on them. But sooner or later I need to make these. So let's take a look on the game file. let's put the page on the other side because I have more info in there. So the first thing you need to do to make a game is to create a game file. And we already have an example. So this is the menu for the game file. So the first part is the generic data. Here you can save the game name, number of languages, version. And because our artist is Russian, we can actually add a third language. So we can say here free, and here we can change it into Russian. I'm not sure if this is the right way to spell it. As usual, I usually check the spelling. Oops. We get a third language, as easy as that. If I go to the dialog system, you will see it support the third language. The second thing we need is, or this guy support, is the Sprite Menu. This is the Sprite Menu, or tab. Here we have all the sprites that the game support, including blocks, or tills as the artists call them. Tills animation. Objects like barrels, boulders, teleportation, portals, signs, bridges, and even things like switches. And I'm thinking about even breakable objects, like if you have chairs and desks and computer screens, and when explosion happen, or if they detect some kind of damage, it breaks and turn into a broken object. It might be, we can represent these by using objects. Actually, both objects and items sprites are loaded on the same page. Fire, creatures, backgrounds. These ones are a little bit big, as you can see the size in here. Weapons, layers. Layers, I call layers in the system as accessories, and they can be hands, hats, armors, anything that go over the character and make it consist of several layers is called an accessory. And GUI stuff like buttons, frames. Unfortunately, I screwed up the GUI thing, and I didn't complete the example to show it. I used to have Game Engine 2 to have examples for the GUI, but I kinda lost that because of the versionizer. It's a long story, let's save it there. So this page organizes these images. The second one organizes maps and the exits when you go to the north or the west or the south. This one I will show it to you later, how to make blocks into animated blocks. And factions. Whenever you play a game and there is more than one faction, like in World of Warcraft, you have the orcs and the humans, but actually I believe they changed the names because they became like alliance. Like the blood elves, they added to the orcs for some reason. So this is the first step. The second tab is called animation particles, and this is a concept I call it on anything that can support animations. So far, only creatures and weapons can be animated particles. So what's the animated particles page support? First thing is the image itself. We need to select the image, give it a name, size, The dimensions. How many sides do we have? If you have an RPG game, this is the best time to run the example in here, the old demo. This is an RPG example, and you have 4 sides. You have left, down, right, and up. So this guy have 4 sides. But in our new game, which is action scroller, we have only 2 sides, on the right and on the left. He cannot go up and down, so you need to put 2 sides in here. So this system support up to, well, 32. I don't think any game I will make will support 32, but you never know. And I might even change this and make it 64 if I need 64. Or am I joking? But I have a plan to make a 16 side game. It's a robot war game. That's a different story. Semi 3D or whatever it's called. And one of the you can change the animated particle to be considered as a layer, because characters can combine into one character, like a fusion, or if you have a character can ride a car or ride a motorcycle, then he become a layer type to the motorcycle. So this is a way to do that. And you have the collision, and let me change the color of this one. The collision area where the fire hits the character, and the damage area where the character damage the enemies. So you can change it even by mouse in here. So this is the page. You can put a description for the game and passive skill for the current frame. This is the wrong place for that. Oh, with damage in touch. This is the wrong description. This is for the animation description. I need to move, change it. So actually, when an enemy can damage you by touch, you can connect it to a passive skill to do that. So this is the animated particle page. The next page is giving the animated particle some life, to give it animations. And here we can decide the number of frames, the side of the frame. Why do I need the unit position calculation? Oh yes, I do. Because different pages can have different animation sizes. So for example, if you have a character that turned into a ball, like Samus from what's the game name, damn it, Metroid, the animation is much smaller than the full character. Same for Dracula, for example, when he turned into a huge werewolf, the animation of the werewolf is much bigger than the character Dracula in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. So the same page of the animation might have bigger or smaller animation, depends on the needs of the game. That's why we need to decide the size of the frame of this animation. And this is for the position. And if you have an animation in here that contains layers, you will see the missing layers in here. They are missing because we need to add them in here. But before we jump to that level, let's check these guys here. Here we can give a specific collision rectangles for damage and collision detection. And actually we need to add a third one later on for wall detection. I noticed that using this one for the collision is wrong to use it for wall detection. So I need to add a third rectangle for each creature. And we can specify the speed for the frames. If you wanted the speed is different. Like in this animation has a speed of 20 millisecond. It's 20 millisecond to change the frames. The last thing you can add in this page is the fire point, where the fire can exit. from where the fire come from in this animation, because this page is not only for creature, it can goes even for weapons, and some creatures can fire, like the imp in Doom and Doom 2. They can fire from their hands, so they don't need a weapon, a physical weapon to do that. So here you can decide where the fire comes from, and it should show as an arrow because I didn't put the number in here. And you see the arrow, but I don't think the arrow is clear. Hopefully it's clearer in here. Or you can just put it outside the image, which is ridiculous. The third page is responsible for adding layers to the animation. So you can add layers, but because Walk doesn't accept any layer, it's giving me the red thing in here. So it says screw you, you cannot do that. But if you go to aim, you will see we have 2 layers on the left hand and the right hand. I already put them. This arrow shouldn't be printed. Silly you. This page is a little bit buggy, sorry about that. But when I say where's the left hand, it says on the corner, because I didn't change the position of the left hand, and I use the same frame size of the hands. So if you go here and you check, unfortunately the artist didn't put it the way he wanted, the artist before Artem. He didn't understand me. I told him to put it in the same frame size. So this one should be fit exactly at the character, but it doesn't. Oh well. And here we can create new accessories from sprites. So if you put the left arm, you can check where's the, this is the left arm, and this is the right arm. And each accessory can have different frames for animations. So I don't need to say, hey, in the frame 1 I need this frame, and the frame 2 it need this frame. And instead I can just tell this frame have an animation, and it work with the animation itself. That will take more size in the images, but it will make the life easier for the artist and me to make characters with different layers. The next page is the equipment, which is the slots of the characters, where what kind of the character can hold. For example, Walker can have a right arm, because in some of the animations require the right arm animation, and that's actually a slot for the equipment. And he have 2 weapons to hold, and the left arm, and each one of them can say what kind of equipments does it accept. So in here we put the slots inside the animation themselves. Here we make the animations, here we make the accessories, and here we treat not only the accessories but even equipments. We put slots for the character himself, all the thing that the character can hold. So this is related to the animated particle more than the animation themselves. So here we go. I'm talking too fast, sorry about that, but I'm trying to finish showing off all the things we can do with the system so far. The next thing is the most thing that gave me nightmares. It's called the action condition, or the active action system, sorry. This system, I gave it another name after I finish it, and I called it character customization. This is a user-friendly name, I guess, because action or active action is, you cannot understand what the hell I'm talking about. Active action is a system that took me more than 2 months to make, and around 3 weeks of depression. The thing is, I want to give life to the characters. I want to make a generic system that can make the character behave, act, interact with the player. Because animation themselves doesn't do anything. So it took me a while to figure out how to do that. And I made it before I made the control system. And this is even more freaky. I mean, how can you walk in the other side? People walk from like, make the control works first, then it just make the action, then the animation. I made it the other way around, completely in the other direction. And that wasn't on purpose. I was just trying to make an abstract system. So what's the idea? The idea is each character can do behaviors, can do actions. But these actions need three conditions. So the whole action is called in my system is active action. Active action is mean a character do something. Like falling, floating, running, fire, running and fire, use an item, get on vehicle, fly, accelerate. And you see, when you say running, this is a continuous action. So actually, the character is moving from one action to another. It transcend from them. So it's a dynamic system. So even idle is an action. So there are three conditions to make an active action work. The first one is actions. The second one is equipment. The third one is the sides. Or you can say the side is the second one and the equipment is the third one. So for example, for Walker, what do we need to make Walker idle? He need to be idle. He need to be on the ground. And in here, he need no equipment condition, and that's it. He can become idle. That's the only action condition. So what's the system consist of? Once again, it consists of actions and states. Actually, I didn't mention the states. So what's the actions? For example, Walker can be on the ground or on the air. He cannot be on both, unless if he's God or something, I don't know. I mean, he cannot be on both. If he is on both, then the system might do nothing. Actually, it would do nothing because actually it's impossible because the gravity system is responsible on it. He can order the character to walk, and walk in this action is kind of bad. I should call it move, because if he's on the ground and walk, it becomes normal walking. If he's on the air and walk, it becomes floating. That's mean while he's on the air, he's moving right or moving left, then he's floating, and he gives a different animation for that. So this is how the system represents the actions. Of course, this file I made it already. If I make it from zero, I need to think thoroughly what I need to do. So you might ask, well, what's the use of states? Well, actually, who's deciding these actions? The game. The game itself decides these actions with the help of the control and other systems. So actually the states is not for the system itself, it's for the guy who decided the actions themselves. Then every collection of actions in here can make something called the action, active action. The active action need an active condition, or sorry, action condition, which is the equipment and the side. Depends on the side and depends on the equipment, we can figure out what kind of animation we are going to use. Each animation on each side can have different flags. Usually the one on the second side is the left side, have reverse image. Because if you notice our animation in here, all the characters are facing to the right. And we give the character two sides in here. If you select Walker, it will tell you it have two sides. So we assign the second side to represent the left side. So every action here, you will see the second side is exactly has the same animation of the first side, but the only difference is reverse horizontally. And here, if all the conditions happens, we can assign a script to the engine to do something specific, and each animation can assign a different script to, and each script base have two phrases: the condition to make the script work, and the script what does it do. So this one, it move on the y-axis by -42. That means it fall down. Oh, sorry, that means it goes up, because in programming, y0 is the top. Every time you go down, you go positive. You go up, you go negative. So actually, if you go to the fall or drop, you will see no. What the? We should see here negative something weird. Maybe float. Maybe this is an old code or something. I don't think so. I don't know why drop is not, doesn't have negative number, but here, oh yes, because I made the physics engine to do the negative thing when he's on the air. Based on the state, if he's dropping, then he goes down, and we can change that and make dropping in here is the one who's dropping the character down instead of the physics system. But oh well. The last page should show me the result of animation if we have certain actions, collection of actions. But I didn't finish that. This is just a placeholder, a very old placeholder before I made the active action system actually. This was supposed to show the layers, wasn't supposed to show everything. But I was like, yeah, I'll do something to test the result of everything before you test it on the game. So this thing is not done. The third page is the skill page. And you have the jobs, which can be like races or classes in the game, depends on the game itself, like humans, orcs, or in some CRPG like warlock, and there are subclasses or something. So this represents the whole job, the whole race. In Final Fantasy, like white mage, blue mage, I don't know. No, in Final Fantasy it might be the character himself, like Cloud, or in Final Fantasy 5, or even Tactics, the character names. The skill trees show the skills for a mage or warlock or whatever. The skill trees consist of skills and conditions and max levels. So here we have skills, we have 3 different skills types, and this might change later on. Active skills, passive skills, and buffs. And actually all of them are saved in the same manners, but this kind of distinguishing is just for other systems to know which one to pick later on. And from skills we can build skill trees, and the jobs can have different skill trees. So it's just a composite system, and it's very generic but very powerful. It can make RPG games with that, it can make strategy games, it can do a lot of variety ways, depends how the whole game will interact with the free system. And actually I made some kind of test to make 3 different games. I tried to make Super Mario with this system as a theory, as a design, if the system will support that or not, including the power up of flowers and the star and the coins and 1-ups. and HP and everything fits. I tried Final Fantasy 7. I tried Final Fantasy 5. I tried the RPG game Ragnarok, MMORPG, and actually the system can support more complex than Ragnarok, because in each class it can be represented by a skill tree, like the paladin and the swordman and royal guard. But this system can support even a character that have two or more different skill trees. Like you can be a royal guard and a wizard. The only problem is the formula conflicts. With each job and prototype, we can assign attributes different formulas. So if the same job actually this can be solved by the prototype, silly you. A prototype is a template for the final result. Sorry, that's why I made, this is one of the main reasons why I made a prototype. Prototype is a template for the whole result of the fiasco of the system. So, for example, if you're making an RPG game and you have enemies with a certain skills or certain capabilities, and he's the job of like a wizard. So the job knows every skill he can learn and every skill trees he can learn from. The skill trees know the maximum skills and the maximum attributes for each skill tree. But the prototype, it decides how much of these data or how much of these levels and attributes does the character have. So actually you can make different prototypes and it can be saved as a dynamic progress for the character that you play with. But for example, if you add a certain character, let's say Red Vampire or Grey Wolf, and you have certain skill trees and job plans for the wolves, but you want a certain one for only the did I say werewolf or direwolf or grey wolf? I don't know. Let's say direwolf. Then you can save a template with all the attributes of all the skill trees you have in here. So if you have a conflict, you can decide which value do you want to select from either this skill tree or the other skill tree, or even put a specific number only for this prototype. So it can even accept exceptions. And you can save it on, and later on when you add the characters, you can select this prototype. So you need a prototype to represent these characters or put these data in the characters in the map. And formulas, as I said, are formulas that you attach to attributes that live in jobs or prototypes. Last is the attack, fire, and control tab, which was the last tab I made. Attack is the action that you request from the characters or weapons to attack. So you need to select an animation that has a fire point, and you add fires to this attack and add fire behaviors to each fire. Paths are the way how the fire bullet move. If you ever played Bullet Hell, or you've seen Bullet Hells or a Scholar game, or even shoot 'em up game, and you see the bullets follow different behaviors or paths when they move. So this is what's the path for, but I never ever even tested or done anything with it. I'm still working on it, but this thing can save to the file. Fire should be able to save to the file and load, but I screwed it up and the program stopped working, and I revoked some of the work to make it work in here to make the video. So paths can work for fire and AI too, for games like shoot 'em up or scholar games. Some of the AI just follow a scripted path, and this can work to them as long as it doesn't turn all of a sudden. This is just like a curve or something. I might make some kind of more advanced system to make script path for games or path finding or whatever. But for now, this is for fire only, but it can be used for enemies for scroll up games like airplanes and stuff, like Raptor. Fire can be range, melee, or others, and the only part I programmed so far is range. The melee, I didn't do anything with it, and the others are just ideas. Fire attributes, we can add attributes to fire. I forgot what does that mean. Fire attribute and attribute, yeah, great. I will check that later. And control page. Control page is the last thing I designed, and I discovered that I have a messed up that every controller can assign the button for one character only. And this messed up make me a little bit depressed, because when I figured out that and I need to add a new layer to the system, the changes will take around 1 week to 2 weeks to make it work without screwing up, and it need a lot of testing. What I'm trying to say, for example, if the player can control characters that can get on cars, or then control a GUI, or even when you press escape and you see the main menu, the keys and the joystick keys can be assigned for only one thing, one unique thing, all of these guys. So if you press A on the Xbox controller to jump on the character, and when you get on the car and you want to start the car or dash with the car, you cannot use A for that. If you want to make A to continue the paragraph or the dialogue, you cannot use A for that, because you already used A for the jumping and the character, like, oh gosh. So I made a screw up, and the reason why I depend on my search on the buttons itself to make the search as fast as possible. So whenever I click on A, it immediately, not immediately, it find it really fast. But I failed to consider that it can be used for different things, and I need to add a different layer. It's not an, it's an easy fix, but it doesn't mean it will take a little time. It will take some time to fix it. Last page is a placeholder. I will move it later on in this tab to make a specify size of an object. So there you go. This is only for the game file, my friend. You need to see the whole system. So I will take a break for a few minutes, and I'll start the next video.